first graders.
Hi, first graders. Welcome back.
How are you? Well, it's a great day.
It's a great day. I know I'm skipping ahead to how I feel, but I'm just in such a good mood because of the weather.
Look behind us.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that beautiful blue sky.
I know.
Not a cloud in sight. There's a little bit of a breeze, which keeps us nice and cool here in the TV classroom. Because without a breeze, it gets really, really hot in here.
Warm.
Let's check in with our zones.
Okay.
Friends, how are you doing at home? How are you feeling? What is your body feeling? What is your brain feeling? How are your emotions? Take a moment and think. Mr. Kevin, what zone are you in today?
Oh, thanks for asking, teachers. I am in the green zone.
You are? Awesome.
Yeah, how about you?
I'm in the bluey green zone. I'm still, I hurt my shoulder and it hurts. So it's kind of distracting. You know, when like you have a sore toe or something and it's distracting, that distracting pain. But other than that, I'm in the green zone. So my body's in the blue zone, but my brain and my emotions are in the green zone. How are you, Miss Oslin?
I'm good. I'm in the green zone. I slept really well last night. I had a good breakfast. I'm having a hard time not being in a good mood with this weather.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
It's amazing going from winter to spring.
How's your toe feeling today?
So much better.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you for asking. I'm able to wear normal shoes today.
Well, and first graders don't even know what happened because they weren't here yesterday when we were filming. So
yeah. I broke my toe over spring break, and it was really bugging me yesterday. In fact, I had to teach without shoes on.
She did. It's true. And if you, they don't know what happened to me either.
They don't know what happened
to you. No, I fell down and hurt my shoulder really bad.
And we did it on the same day.
We did it on the same day. I texted Miss Oslin. I said, "Oh, you're never gonna believe what happened." She's like, "No way! I broke my toe." So, you know, it's nice when you and your friend have something to share together, I guess.
Maybe next time it'll be something a little less painful.
I hope so.
Hopefully.
That would be good. All right. Let's get jumping into our science lesson.
Yes, let's remind ourselves of our 3 personal standards today and every day when we come together. We all agree to
show respect, make good decisions, solve problems.
So you hopefully will make the good decision to have your science materials ready. Mrs. Wally has her science notebook and a pencil.
You might have a whiteboard or a whiteboard marker, or you may just have a piece of paper and a crayon. Doesn't matter. You just need to be able to sketch and write down the things you're learning today on the TV classroom.
And we're going to review how science works. This graphic with all of those arrows is the scientific process.
Now, that means that you don't just go from one end to the other and have a solution. Science doesn't work that way. You have something you think, you research it, then you make observations, you ask questions, you share ideas, and then you make a hypothesis. You think something, so then you come up with an explanation for it, and you look at more observations and interpret them. You do some gathering of data and some experiments, and then you might go back up to the red, or you might go over to the blue. What's the blue? It's where you learn more about it. You do more research based on what you saw. You answer questions. You use what you saw and what you researched in your experiment to solve everyday problems. And then you might go back to the green or back to the red. It's this whole process. There's no right way to go, but you do start with some kind of question or wondering. And then what happens after the blue?
Well, then you could go back
to the green,
and maybe
back
this
to
is
the
when
red.
You revisit what you thought.
Right, what you thought you knew.
And that's when you're changing. You're changing. Your thinking might change.
Yeah. Pretty cool, isn't it? I love it.
So let's review the question that we have had, which is how do animals in the Salish Sea use their structures to survive?
So we've gone to the Foss Seaport and we looked at some animals, talked a little bit about their structure, and then we found some zooplankton and some phytoplankton in the water. And we talked about those structures. And then we went to the creek.
Swan Creek.
Swan Creek. And we saw different kinds of animals and different kinds of structures of plants and talked about how those plants use their structures to survive.
We talked about how they're native and invasive species.
Right, and how the native species can be harmed by invasive species that aren't supposed to be there. So it's really important as stewards of our land that we make sure that we try to help the native species as much as possible. And we learned about all those seed structures when we were on the walk, about how some of the plants like use the burrs on the dog, right? Like the Velcro to stick and move. Other ones can spit their seeds. So amazing. And you know what's funny is I was gardening in my garden bed and I had some weeds in the bed. And I picked it up and all of a sudden, all of these little seed pods came floating off of the weed. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is what's happening.
That's how they spread their
seeds. It's
seeds.
spreading its seeds and I don't want it to, but there's nothing I could do about it. So I'm gonna have to pull some more weeds when those ones grow. But it was exactly what we were talking about on that field trip. And then some of the plants, they just pulled up and didn't have any seed pods that were ready to go. So I was watching the plant structures happen right there in my garden.
That is so interesting. We were so lucky to have Chris and Leica teach us so much.
Oh, we were. And Miss Julia at
Foss
Waterway. So before we get going, it's time for our...
Hang on a second. I'm just never quite there. Never quite there.
Oh, so good, Mr. Kevin.
Yeah, I know.
Friends, I hope you laugh at home when this happens. Because we laugh. It's so great.
Here we go with the big science word.
Oh.
Ooh,
what?
Echo. That's a new feature at TV
I
Classroom.
like that. Look at this word, friends. How are we going to figure out how to say this?
Well, I remember Miss Julia taught us this word.
Derm. I see derm. Remember we talked about the skin?
Yep.
Echinoderm. Those were like the sea stars.
We had a prediction at Foss Waterway Seaport that echinoderms had something to do with skin or like the
echoes.
Echo. Because I saw that echai at the beginning. I don't know.
We weren't sure.
I was guessing. Not just guessing. I used information that I know to make a prediction. Excuse me. So the final meaning of echinoderm is a marine animal with parts coming out from the center and hard, bony outer walls.
It has an exoskeleton.
It does.
Just like we talked about how we're invertebrates, right? Our skeleton's on the inside. Echinoderms wear their protective stuff on the outside.
So that's a structure that they have to help them
live and survive. Especially like when the tide goes out, right? And there's all these predators, they want to have that nice, strong outer skin.
Because we talked about how they're more exposed when the tide is out.
Are you having trouble hearing us, Mr. Kevin?
I'm good. Go back. How about now?
Okay. Sometimes, friends, we just have technical difficulties.
All right, let's review
our chant.
Animals Here, Animals There. And it's by Irene Cannon, Heidi Bergener, Perry Colapinto,
and Laura Guzman,
and Cynthia Sorensen. They wrote this in 2009.
That's amazing. Look at all those smart brains that had to go together.
I know. Good collaboration. Okay. Jinx.
Let's do it.
Animals here, animals there. Animals, animals everywhere. Enormous animals reaching. Hungry animals chewing. Sleepy animals nesting. And energetic animals hopping.
Now, the sea stars, I don't think they hop.
No, that's not a structure or a system that they have that helps them survive.
No.
Animals in the river, animals around the rainforest, animals under the sea, and animals throughout the savanna. Animals here, animals there. Animals, animals everywhere. Animals, animals, animals.
Now, we've talked about animals in the forest, and animals in the streams, and animals in the ocean.
Yes, we have.
We've learned about so many different animals and their structures.
Yes. Today, we're going to focus on
the sea star.
The sea star.
Now, I want you to go back and think about what happened at the Foss Seaport. So everyone close your eyes. Think about those touch tanks. Can you see them? And Miss Julia, I want you to think about the sea stars. What do you remember about the sea stars? What do you remember about the sea stars? You notice Miss Oslin's putting some fingers up. Oh, you can't see them. They're behind
I'm
the
hiding
animals.
them. Sorry.
And I'm putting up some fingers. We're remembering facts about the sea stars that Miss Julia taught us. If you didn't watch that, you could pause it and go watch it real quick.
Oh, you could. That's a beautiful thing about TV class.
Isn't it great? You can always go back and rewatch things to remember. Okay, are you ready, Miss Oslin?
Yes.
Okay, what do you remember about the sea stars?
Well, I remember that we call it a sea star, not a starfish.
Yes, because it's not a fish.
It's not a fish. That was new learning for me.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember?
I remember that their stomachs come out and they the stomach goes over the prey and digests it, and then they slurp it in. And we actually got to see that. Oh, I don't remember the name of it. That sea star. What was its name? Maybe it was a sun star?
I don't remember.
But it was feeding on a mussel.
It was.
What else do you remember?
I remember that depending on the type of sea star that it was, it had different numbers of arms.
Oh, that's right. There was one with all of the arms, and then there was those really skinny arms.
There was one that we counted, and it had 13.
Right, and then other ones that look like kind of what you think of when we say sea star. I would ask Mr. Kevin, but he's focused back there, so we're going to let him figure out what he's figuring out. So we are going to do an input chart on a sea star. So I'm going to get my input chart ready, and we are going
to learn about the structures of a sea star that help it survive.
So this is just what they call a common sea star. So this is like the one when you think of sea star that you think of, right? Like it has the 5 arms or rays. But we know that that's not the same for all sea stars. And you know, can I tell you a funny fact? When I write the word star, I want to put 2 R's on it because before I got married, my last name was Miss Star and it had 2 R's. So
muscle memory, it's a thing.
So this is a common sea star. It's called the Asterias rubens.
Asterias rubens.
That's the scientific name. Isn't that interesting? So we're going to talk about 3 different things with the sea star. The first thing we're going to talk about is the larva and what it looks like. So if you remember when we were with Miss Julia and we went out into the water.
We did the plankton
tow. We did the plankton tow. And we pulled up plankton and we saw some plankton. We didn't see a sea star
we did not.
Plankton, but this would be what the sea star larva or plankton looks like if we were to find one. And I bet if we went another day, we would be able to find one. And here's what it looks like. So if you were to go out and do your own plankton tow and look under a microscope and you saw a little creature wiggling around that looked like this, this would turn into a sea star, which is amazing to me about the metamorphosis. Well, that's a big word.
Metamorphosis.
Like babies. Babies are just little people that just get bigger and bigger, right?
They start really small, just like our larvae.
Right, but they still kind of look like humans, right? And they just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, sea stars, they start as this larva and they go through changes to get to the sea star.
Kind of like a caterpillar.
That gets into a chrysalis and then it forms and then turns into a butterfly. Or a frog that's like an egg and then a larva and a tadpole and a froglet, and they have a life cycle. Sea stars are similar. So they start out as this larva. They hatch into this larva and they drift around like this and they eat on the phytoplankton. And then they grow up and they look like this. Some of them. This is kind of their shape. Whoop. And I'm doing what's called a sketch. Scientists do sketches all the time, so they don't look perfect. But it goes from this to looking like that.
That's incredible.
Isn't that cool? This is, we're gonna look at the top side right now.
That's right, because I remember the sea stars would be like flat against a surface, and the top side that we could see looked different than the bottom side.
And the top side has the exoskeleton, right? So it has things like sharp, bony spines. And I remember that they kind of look like little triangles, right? And they had these little spines all over. And I'm not going to draw it for the sake of time. I'm not going to draw it all over all the arms or rays, but I'm going to show it just on each one.
Okay, so that's a structure that helped this common sea star survive.
And they have grasping pinchers. And those can attach to things, right? So it can help it attach to some kind of plant that's floating around in the water to provide it safety and covering from a predator.
That certainly helps it survive.
Now, that might look like little tiny dots. We saw those too on the sea star. So that helps them to ward off predators and to hide and camouflage so the predators can't see them, right? So that helps them survive. And then they have these tiny hollow finger-like gills on their body. Finger-like.
So like gills that are like
Gills
fingers. Put your fingers up and pretend like they're the gills of a sea star.
Body. And they are there to, I don't know why they're there. So I need to look up why they have those finger gills, or ask Miss Julia why they have the finger gills on their body. I'm gonna make a prediction. I think I know, and we're gonna find out, and I'll research it and tell you next time. I think it's so that they can breathe. Yes, Mr. Kevin?
I was just going to say, I once knew a guy named Gil. He was a little fishy.
Oh, Mr. Kevin, you're so funny. So gills, I know with fish help them breathe, but I know that it's not a starfish.
Right.
So maybe it has a different purpose. So I need to do some research. I have a prediction. I think I know what it's for, but I need to go find out some more information, which is great that I have another thing about sea stars I want to research.
Yep. And that'll help you better remember when you do learn that new information.
Yes.
Because you connected it to something you thought you already knew.
And friends, maybe you could find out why are these finger-like gills on the top of a sea star. Then we have the arm or the ray. And that's what these things are, right? And it's covered with a really tough skin. Now, Miss Austin, why is it covered with a tough skin?
Covered the arms. Well, I'm covered in skin to help protect.
But our skin's really soft.
It is. It's not tough.
Theirs is tough like a bone.
Must be to help them survive, to keep them protected.
Like I think about a bird, and like if a bird tried to peck this side, it wouldn't be able to peck it. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Must be to help them survive from predators. And then the last thing we learned about with Miss Julia too is right on the end of each ray, there's this little spot. It's called the eye spot.
Eye spot.
And she talked about how sea stars can see, kind of. It's like if you were to close your eyes and cover with your hands, but don't open your eyes and then uncover, how it's lighter and then it's dark and it's light and it's dark. It's light, and it lets them know like if they're covered by the water or not, or if they're down deep or up high. They can sense light, but they can't see shapes like we can.
Or how they could like climb under
a
something
rock
to
and be
protect them.
protected.
So those are all structures that help the sea stars survive.
Now,
That are on the top side.
and that's just the top.
Wow.
So now we're going to go to the bottom side. And it looks very different. It has rays because we just flip it over. It's the same thing, just flipped over. Oh, that was weird. Thank you, Miss Oslin. Miss Oslin's an awesome teammate.
Thank you.
It has these ambulaural grooves.
Ambulaural grooves.
And they're on each arm or ray. They look like this. Now you've seen these, and you've looked at the underside. Okay. Now, in each of those grooves, they have 2 to 4 rows of tube feet.
Tube feet.
Remember when Miss Julia turned it over, and there was like these things that were like, and it, looking straight down, it would just look like these little circles. But if you were to take a side shot of it,
like instead of looking at it like this, you turn it like this.
It would look kind of like this with these little long things, little circle on the end. Because on the end of those tube feet are little round suction cups. So they have little suction cups on the end of their feet. Why would they have suction cups on the end of their feet?
It's got to be a structure that helps them survive somehow.
What is it, Miss Osmond? Why do they have suction cups on the end of their feet?
I'm thinking about sea stars being in the intertidal zone with the tide going in and out, and how they would want to suction cup to something so they either don't get swept up too far, or maybe they're not ready to go back out yet.
What if
or they want to stay put?
What if they're eating and something tries to grab it?
Oh.
I remember there were some sea stars that, like, when we were, they just like sucked down, and Miss Julie was like, we're just gonna leave that one there. It doesn't want to move.
Yep.
Or like how you like see it like on the side of a rock. If it didn't have the suction cups, it'd fall down and get hurt. Sounds like a pretty important structure.
It does, and this is making me think back to our biomimicry. When we copy nature to solve a problem. That we suction cups. We have suction cups.
Yeah,
I
we
wonder
do.
if this is another creature like the limpet where we copied or mimicked.
Now the last structure is right here in the middle. Does anyone remember what sea stars have right here in the middle? Well, it's inside.
But it comes out.
Their mouth. And inside their mouth, it has a stomach. I mean, we kind of have a stomach inside our mouth, down our esophagus, and in our body. But that stomach is pushed out to get food. Okay, so everyone, Miss Oslin, can you be the mouth?
Yes.
And I'm going to be the stomach.
Okay.
And the stomach gets pushed out, and it grabs the food, and it goes nom, 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 nom. It shoots out different acids and things to digest it, and then goes. Shoot it again.
Yeah.
You try it at home. Okay. Stomach, this mouth,
The mouth.
stomach.
Sorry, Rafa.
That's so
That
fun.
is so fun. So that's a structure that a sea star has to help it survive.
By getting nutrients.
That the stomach comes out, gets the nutrients, and then comes back in and is inside the arms with the thick cover skin so that the stomach is protected.
Yep. And we learned that sea stars like to eat mussels
Yes, they do.
and little worms and things. Pretty cool, huh?
Very neat.
So that's our structure for sea star. Now, if you didn't see our last week's episode with our trip to Foss Seaport, make sure to go back and watch that.
Because then you get to see a sea star in real life.
Yeah, and you'll get to see, you'll be like, oh, that's what Mrs. Wally was talking about. Okay.
So going back to our essential question is, how do animals in the Salish Sea use their structures to survive? Your job is to think about our trip to Foss Waterway Seaport and think about the input chart that Mrs. Wally and I just created.
And think about our trip to Swan Creek and our trip to Point Defiance and the forest, because all of those things are linked to the Salish Sea. And your job is to just jot down some of the things you remember from all of those field trips, because next lesson, you're going to use all that information to write. So I want you to gather all your things that you have learned, or that maybe your thoughts changed, and just jot them down. And when you're done, you can share it with us on Flipgrid. You can either type it out, take a picture, take a video of it. You could draw an input chart of your own to teach us all the things you've learned. You could do a skit with people around you to like show us how you've learned it in a skit. You have to be creative on Flipgrid, which is amazing.
Like we just did with the sea star and the stomach coming out. We acted it out.
There's more than one way to share your information. So that's what you're gonna do. If you don't want to go on Flipgrid, that's fine. You can make sure to give it to your teacher, first of all, and you can send it to us here at the TV Classroom a different way. How can they do that, Mr. Kevin?
That's right, students. If we'd love to hear from you. So if you need some help, you can ask an adult to help you send a email to TV Classroom at tacoma.k12.wa.us, or you can mail it in the regular mail to TV Classroom right here at the TV Classroom headquarters, which is on 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
And when you do that, any of that, this beautiful input chart that we have created, we will send it to you.
Well, maybe. Depends on how many students.
That's true.
If only one person does, then that person
it's
gets
you.
it. But if more than one person, we'll draw your name and we'll send it to your school, to your teacher.
Now it's time for our affirmation. This is the time of day when we get to say positive, uplifting things about ourselves before we go off to do our independent work. And today our affirmation is, I can show what I know. Because we're coming to kind of the end of several lessons where we're learning a lot of new information, and we are expecting you to be able to show us what you know.
That's right.
And
that's what learners do.
So let's take a deep breath and say our affirmation. I can show what I know. Excellent job today, first graders. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you back here next time on our TV Classroom.
See you on Flipgrid. Bye, friends.
Greetings, astronaut cadets. This is your commanding officer reporting to you from Space Command. Today, we will be traveling to and exploring the moon. We call this mission Space Jump. Here's how it works. Number 1, complete each of the 4 levels by reaching the star coin. 2, when you see me run, you run. 3, when you encounter an object coming towards you, you will need to either dodge, duck, dip, dive, or dodge in order to safely complete each level. And number 4, have fun. Good luck, cadets!